Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Well, they say that politics is a blood sport. And this year, that has been proven time and time again. From a history-making U.S. election to all the recent drama on Parliament Hill, there hasn't been a dull moment. And you've heard it all year long here on The Big Story. I'm NewsRadio's Mitch Burke, and today we're looking back at the biggest political stories of the year. And, here's your spoiler alert. A lot of them involved Donald Trump.
This is Charlene Close with a look back to May 31st, the day after Donald Trump was convicted in his hush money trial. Donald Trump spent 33 minutes railing against the justice system, the judge, and President Joe Biden.
If they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone.
Then he dropped this.
I would have testified. I wanted to testify. The judge was a tyrant.
Biden offered his take from the White House.
Now he'll be given the opportunity, as he should, to appeal that decision just like everyone else has that opportunity. And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict.
Trump is expected to keep his legal troubles central to his campaign because it appears to actually be increasing his support. President Joe Biden is also using it, inviting people to donate to the Democrats to help stop the man who Biden says is threatening democracy, questioning the election system and the judicial system.
Of course, Trump won the election. This time, he even did it with the plurality of the popular vote. And that prompted this speech from Kamala Harris the next day.
This is Phil Martino with a look back at November 6th, the day after the U.S. presidential election and the day Kamala Harris delivered her concession speech in Washington, D.C. after her loss to Donald Trump. Kamala Harris faced hundreds of her supporters outside her former school, Howard University, to concede to Donald Trump.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for.
Her message to supporters was, it's going to be okay, concede and unite, but don't give up the fight.
A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up.
Harris said she spoke with President-elect Donald Trump and congratulated him on his election victory, and she told him they will help him and his team with their transition.
I'm Cormac McSweeney with a look back at November 29th, the day the Prime Minister made a surprise visit to Mar-a-Lago to have dinner with incoming U.S. President Donald Trump. That was the sound of the motorcade after Justin Trudeau landed at the West Palm Beach airport. The trip on a Friday afternoon was unexpected and only discovered after reporters were tracking Trudeau's government plane. The meeting was Trump's first with the G7 leader since his election in November, and the Prime Minister wanted to discuss the president's threat to slap Canada with a 25% tariff on all goods unless migrants and drugs stop crossing the border. Ahead of the trip, Trudeau said we have to take it seriously because Trump doesn't bluff.
When he makes statements like that, he plans on carrying them out.
Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc was also there and told Trump and some of his officials about Canada's billion-dollar plan for the border. It was later revealed Trump suggested Canada become the 51st state, but LeBlanc dismissed that as a joke.
It was a social evening, and there were moments where it was entertaining and funny.
However, Trump continues to troll Canada with this joke.
It was not all about Trump. Canada lost a statesman this year. He was feted in a heartfelt and musical tribute to Canada's 18th Prime Minister.
This is Kevin Meisner with a look back on February 29th, the day Canada learned of the death of former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney.
My first thoughts tonight are for the Mulroney family.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau paid tribute to Brian Mulroney, saying he made the country a better place.
He was an extraordinary statesman, and he will be deeply missed.
Over 9 years as Prime Minister, Mulroney was respected as a statesman, a champion for human rights, standing against apartheid in South Africa and pushing for the release of Nelson Mandela from prison.
If there are not fundamental changes in South Africa, we are prepared to invoke total sanctions against that country.
He also made strides on the environment, signing the Acid Rain Accord in 1991 with the U.S. and securing the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. But Mulroney also introduced the GST in 1991, the unpopular federal sales tax, and led the failed Meech Lake Accord talks in 1987, an attempt to win Quebec's support for Canada's repatriated constitution.
I always tried to do what I thought would be right for Canada in the long term.
Mulroney was 84. He was honored with a state funeral in March.
Meanwhile, no shortage of action over in Ottawa.
I'm Cormac McSweeney with a look back at June 24th, the day the Liberals lost in a stunning by-election in what has traditionally been a stronghold riding.
In a shocking upset, the federal Conservatives picked up a significant win.
Conservative Don Stewart took the Toronto-St. Paul's riding by just under 600 votes. It's a seat that had been Liberal-red since 1993. It was seen as a reflection of the slump the Prime Minister and his party had been suffering in the national polls, but also the significant popularity of Pierre Poilievre and his Tories. The morning after, City News political reporter Glenn McGregor said this by-election could have broad political impacts.
Effectively, it puts the entire country in play for the Conservatives. I mean, if there's any place the Liberals would expect to have a guaranteed win, it would be in downtown Toronto.
The loss sent shockwaves through Liberal circles and ramped up questions about the leadership of Justin Trudeau, sparking a small group of his own MPs to begin pushing him to resign. It was also a sign of things to come, with the Liberals losing a Montreal seat in September and then one in Metro Vancouver in December.
And the news did not get any better for Trudeau. On the Big Story podcast on December 17th, Gary Keller, former advisor to Prime Minister Stephen Harper and vice president at Strategy Corp, spoke about the turmoil inside the Liberal Party.
He basically told her on Friday that he didn't have confidence in her abilities to lead, and they let that fester over the weekend. Instead of letting her present the fall economic update today and then doing a cabinet shuffle Wednesday or Thursday, how they've handled this internally is quite baffling to me. But that being said, you have a real division within the Liberal Party on how they believe that they should be approaching the fiscal challenges that we have. And Chrystia Freeland is very clear in that letter about the need for Canada to preserve from fiscal firepower in the wake of threats from Donald Trump in the United States on tariffs. And we now have a deficit this year of $62 billion. They blew the $40 billion fiscal anchor completely out of the water, and here we are.
At the time of recording of this Year in Review episode, word is that more than 50 Liberal MPs from Ontario alone believe it is time for the Prime Minister to go. And so this will no doubt be a story that develops right from the get-go in 2025. We will continue to bring you that and all of the biggest political developments on the Big Story next year. But that will do it for this special Year in Review episode of The Big Story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca. You can leave us a voicemail at 416-935-5935. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all your favorite podcast players. A rating, a review, a follow, and a share, always appreciated. I'm News Radio's Mitch Burke. Thanks for listening.